Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Washington County Board of Education. At this time, I call this meeting to order and declare a quorum. We do have all 7 members of the board present this evening. We are pleased and privileged to have with us a student to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence this afternoon. Julia Brown, who is a 5th grade student at Clear Spring Elementary, is here to lead us in the pledge. Please join us. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. How are you this evening, Julia?
Good.
It's great to have you with us.
Thank you.
You have some folks with you that you would like to introduce this evening?
That's my brother, that's my mom, that's my dad. That's my principal, Miss Guest, my pap, and my nan.
That's your pap and your nan?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for being here, bringing Julia. Julia, how are things at Clear Spring Elementary these days?
Good.
Good?
Yes.
You have some favorite subjects there this year?
I like math. I like all of it.
You like it all?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what we like to hear. That's what we like to hear.
She's going to be a diplomat.
She's going to be a diplomat. Did you hear that? I understand you have a brother who is
Yes.
older
Yes.
and a brother who is younger.
Yes.
So you're the middle child?
Mm-hmm.
And the only girl?
Yes.
How's that going for you?
Good.
Good. Well, that's a tribute to your 2 brothers then. I'll say that. And what do you like to do, Julia, when you're not enjoying all of your academics?
I play basketball, volleyball, softball, and I do cross country.
Wow. Wow. So you enjoy being active?
Yeah.
Terrific, terrific. Well, Julia, we thank you again for being here this evening and for leading us in the pledge and a moment of silence. And we hope that you have a great experience this year in 5th grade at Clear Spring Elementary.
Thank you.
Thank you. Of this afternoon's agenda. Is there a motion? Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Any discussion of the agenda? All those in favor? All right, we have unanimous approval of the agenda. We'll move to approval of the minutes.
President Williams, I move for the approval of closed session minutes dated Tuesday, September 20th, 2022.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. All right, we have a motion for approval of the closed session minutes of September 20th. All those in favor? Okay. Did you raise your hand?
No.
No?
Abstain.
Thank you. So we have 6 affirmative, and Mr. Gesford abstains.
President Williams, I move for the approval of the business minutes dated Tuesday, September 20th, 2022.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. Are there any additions or corrections to the business meeting minutes of September 20th, 2022? All those in favor? Any abstentions? So we have 6 affirmative, 1 abstention. So we have 2 sets of approved minutes. At this time, we're going to have the first half of the superintendent's report, and his report will continue then after new business. So, Dr. Soban.
Thank you, President Williams, members of the board. As you're aware, WCPS has been growing our summer learning programs in recent years. These camp style sessions offer fun activities to get students interested in the learning experience, things like sports, crafts, and hobbies, but they also incorporate objectives from our core academic areas to keep students learning over the summer. We're so excited to have some of our summer program students here tonight, and Dr. Palmer and Dr. Wilcox will be sharing more about the success of these programs as well. But to our students, we welcome you, and we look forward to hearing about your summer learning experiences.
Good evening, President Williams, Dr. Sovine, and members of the board. We are so excited to be here tonight to share about the summer camps and experiences our students were able to have. And most excited that we have 3 students that are here to share about their learning and what they were excited about to attend camps in their schools this summer. So, our students had an opportunity, all of our students had an opportunity to attend through asynchronous learning. And that included things like the Summer Learning website, s'mores, many different opportunities to choose books on through use of technology. And our summer camps, the purpose was to reinforce our students' skills in reading and math and to build their competency in those areas. Each of our camps ran from June 20th through, or had the opportunity from June 20th through August 11th. The elementary level, the camps varied from several hours a day to full day camps, and at the secondary, they either had half day or full day, and those times are indicated. All of our students had the opportunity for meals, and transportation was also provided. So at the elementary level, the camps varied from Animal Adventures, Kinder Camp, Shark Tank, Inventors, Coding, and some had the opportunity, and I think one of our students is going to share about being able to do some cooking and some cooking challenges and healthy eating. At the secondary level, it varied from aspiring entrepreneurs, CSI camp, financial literacy, sports, ocean, outdoors, robotics, STEM, wild science, and writing. So lots of different opportunities to engage students in areas in which they had the most interest, and then build in the math and reading with all of that. So we want to take a few minutes to hear from our experts who are sitting right here with us. So we're going to let Amelia, who's a 3rd grader at Pangbourne, share first. And Amelia, do you want to pull this down a little bit? So there you go. And will you tell us about your favorite camps that you attended?
My favorite camps were cooking and baking
Okay. And why did you like your camps this summer?
because I got to cook and I like to cook and I got to see my friends.
Okay, she liked to cook and spend time with friends. And next we will have our student from Salem Avenue, Vanessa, share what you liked about summer camps. Oh,
My favorite part was doing outdoor adventure because I got to go outside and do lots of activities.
and do you have some pictures that you want to share?
So we had a journal and outdoor adventure, and we would write about what we had learned that day. And the picture that I have with me is how to build a campfire. And the reason I have this picture was because the person who took it thought it was very good.
And our last student is Celia, and she is a 6th grader at Western Heights. So would you share about your summer learning experiences?
I went to 4 summer camps, but my favorite summer camp was cricket crafting, where we got to use the cricket and learn about how logos can affect like how companies do, and making like stickers, decals, and anything with the cricket.
Okay. Thank you, Celia, for sharing, and thanks, girls, for sharing about your summer camp experience.
Our next slide shows the number of students. So between elementary and middle school, we had just under 3,500 students who participated in the summer camps. As Dr. Palmer said, our summer camps all had a literacy focus, and so literacy was what was key around the camp activities that the students did. We also had opportunities for students to participate in tutoring programs. The tutoring programs we offered in the summer at the elementary and the middle school level were primarily math-based, and as you can see, the structure was built in 30-minute sections. It was offered again at the elementary and the middle school, and meals and transportation were provided for students. In terms of our number of students who accessed our tutoring programs in the summer, you can see that we had around 150 students between elementary and middle school who accessed the tutoring portion. Our last summer school opportunity that we had was high school. And in high school, it was divided into 2 semesters, similar to a school year, where each semester was 4 weeks long, and there was a morning session and an afternoon session. Students could choose to go all day, or they could choose to go to just one session, as we had transportation in the middle of the day for all of our high school students, in addition to meals were provided as well. Students had opportunities to participate in original credit. They could take a repeat class, or they could take a transition credit. Original credit would be for the first time and would be courses that students would take either all day long for one semester, or they could have taken in the morning session for both semester 1 and semester 2. Repeat courses were 1 session long, so a student could in theory take up to 4 repeat classes if they needed to in our summer school design. And then our transition is our 9th grade summer transition program, where we work with students who are transitioning from 8th to 9th grade. In terms of high school, you can see the number of students who were enrolled for each of our courses. In addition, you can see the number of students who completed each of the courses and earned a credit towards their graduation count. And on our last slide, we have a breakdown as to how many students earned a credit in each of our course areas. I want to point out that because of our summer school structure, we were able to assist and to have 65 students graduate with the class of 2022 at the end of the summer.
So we appreciate your time this evening, and we really appreciate our students that came out to share the things that they loved most about attending summer camp.
Okay, we'll move on to public comment. I have one individual who has signed up ahead of time, and that is Mr. Neil Becker. Mr. Becker? Good evening, Mr. Becker. I know I don't have to refer to the policy because you're quite familiar with it.
I'm definitely
And
familiar
you
with
know
it.
that Mr. Bickford is our timekeeper.
I'm familiar with the policy. I'm just thrown for a loop. I'm not here at 6 PM, so I have to. No, thank you, President Williams, Dr. Sovine, board members, and of course, staff and everybody in the audience. I had some notes prepared, but as educators, we know there's kind of the teachable moment, and seeing those young people here, it actually ties in really well, because my focus today is on Coaches Day, because later in the agenda, we're gonna recognize coaches, and what the coaches have in common with the young people who are here, and even Ms. Brown, who did the pledge, is that those kids are in school and they're active, they're doing, and they're enjoying their educational experience and all the stuff that goes around on the periphery. And as a former coach, I coached JV girls softball, and I coached unified sports. I can speak personally of how rewarding it is to coach and how it gives us an extra layer of engagement with our students and another opportunity for engagement and success. For many of our students, extracurricular activities, that's the draw. For some of our students, the primary reason they go to school is the stuff that happens after school. And we saw that with Salem Avenue, with the young lady who spoke about a month ago. That extra opportunity she had after school really motivated her and so many of her classmates. And we see that with our coaches. And our coaches are essential links. And I don't say a chain that binds us in a negative, but a chain that binds us in a positive. They're essential links in that chain that bind our students, our educators, and our communities together. We see it all year long in all the different sports. And our coaches are integral. So thank you to the board and to WCPS staff for, as part of last year's negotiations process, to offer a task force. And that task force is going to get off the ground this year. And we're really going to look at the coaching scales, the extracurriculars, to ensure that our coaches are appropriately compensated for the work that we're doing. We made baby steps last year, and then this task force is really going to do some heavy lifting to ensure that our coaches are appropriately compensated. And the last piece, as I move to conclusion here, is that coaching is also a recruitment tool. Some of our educators are here because they enjoy coaching, and the two go together. And when we often have teachers who are coaches, they have that extra connection to our students and really are another link, as I said, to getting that student to academic success. And our students know they have to maintain that eligibility academically so they can make it to the field or the court in their field of play. And so as I close, we must continue to do all we can to hire and recruit our coaches and teachers. They go together. And then we must retain them. Why do coaches stay? We need to find out why. And why do they leave? We need to ask why. And we need to continue showing them respect. And part of that is that task force that we're going to get off the ground this year. So thank you for that opportunity to recognize our coaches, and I know you'll do it later in today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Becker. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward to speak during public comment? Good evening.
Hi, I'm Audrey Peppel. I teach 5th grade at Pangbourne Elementary School. I want to start off by saying I have an amazing administrative staff. There was a point where I had debated leaving Pangbourne, and then once I found out we were getting Reagan Klutz back as our principal, I stayed because of him. He is amazing. He has supported me personally, professionally, and I don't only consider him my principal, I consider him a good friend. The reason I wanted to speak today is, like I said, I've taught for 17 years in this county, pretty much many of those years at Pangbourne. It's not the kids. I love the kids very much. I became a teacher because I like to teach. I like seeing their excitement on their faces when they learn something new. I like the relationships that I build with my students there because the students at Pangbourne need that. I'm frustrated this year with the amount of work that has been placed on us teachers. And I know I'm speaking for myself, but I know there's others that are emotionally, mentally, and physically drained. I have a son who's in college, and I have 2 daughters that are with me. Both of them are in extracurricular activities. One's in softball, one's in competitive cheer. I literally get home, take them to their practice, come home, feed them, and then I'm on the computer doing work, not even spending time with my kids. The amount of work that's being placed on us is exhausting. I understand that there is certain things that need to be done, but I think that the health and the well-being of our teachers needs to be considered. like I said, I thought long and hard about speaking, but I had many people come to me and say, you need to. It needs to be heard. And unfortunately, as any of my staff or my principal will say, I do just that. I speak up for what I believe in. And I love when I go to work, but I dread to hear of what more I have to put on my plate. And that's pretty much all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Pepple.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak? Okay, at this time, we'll have board member response to public comment. Colleagues?
I'd just like to thank Reagan and all of the staff that came from Pangbourne and wearing their Mission Possible shirts. I went back there and I said, Mission Impossible. They're like, no, 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 no. They corrected me real quick. I'm like, okay, let me see it. And I'm like, so thank you all for coming out today. Board members do like to hear comments, good and bad, because that's the only way that we can correct things. So thank you for coming. Have the courage to speak up. And for all the other teachers out there, I know you spoke for many, but we welcome them to come here and speak too. So thank you all for coming today. Thank you. Thanks for your leadership, not only there, but at another school.
Yes, I'd also like to say thank you very much for coming out and speaking. We like to have people come and speak. We like to hear what you're thinking, what your needs are. And I'd like to congratulate Dr. Klutz. I didn't get a chance to see you when I was there last week, but your leadership speaks volumes. So thank you very much. Thank you, staff, for coming.
I would like to say congratulations to Dr. Klutz. I had the opportunity to speak with him last week, and it wasn't until the following morning that I found out that congratulations were in order. So congratulations on that awesome professional accomplishment. And thank you for all you do, your leadership. Pangbourne, thank you for being here.
I'd just like to say that I remember Mr. Klutz when he was about a third or fourth grader playing basketball in the YMCA Basketball League many, many years ago. Congratulations.
Let's move on to old business. We have one item of old business this evening, and that is the second reading of proposed changes to policy KG, use of school facilities by non-school groups. Mrs. Ram?
I was looking to see if I could say good evening yet or not.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you, President Williams, Dr. Savine, members of the board. The Board of Education approved the first reading of proposed changes to policy KG at its public business meeting on September 20th, 2022. Following the approval of the first reading, the policy committee placed a notice on board docs and the school system's website seeking comments from the community on the proposed changes. No comments have been received. The policy committee is now recommending the Board of Education approve the second reading of proposed changes to policy KG.
Thank you, Mrs. Ram. Is there a motion, please?
Madam President, I move to approve the second reading of proposed changes to policy KG entitled Use of School Facilities by Non-School Groups.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Questions or discussion? We'll move to the vote. We're voting to approve the second reading of proposed changes to policy KG entitled Use of School Facilities by Non-School Groups. All those in favor? 7 affirmative votes. Motion carries. Thank you, Mrs. Ram. Moving right along to new business. Our first item of new business is this afternoon. I keep wanting to say this evening's. This afternoon's consent agenda. We have Mr. Scott Bakedel, Supervisor of Purchasing, presenting.
Good afternoon, President Williams, members of the board, Dr. Sovine. Tonight, I have 4 items for your review. These items were reviewed by our Purchasing Review Committee and are being recommended for approval, and staff is available if you have any additional questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bakewell. Is there a motion?
Madam President, I move to approve awards, renewals, and procurements for milk to Gallagher Dairy Company at an estimated annual cost of $768,271.06. Purchase of a fleet vehicle to Sport Chevrolet at a cost of $57,837. Unit price contract for concrete installation and repair. Renewal to Advantage Landscape and Construction, Inc., Chuck Harrell Home Construction, Inc., and Huntsberry Brothers, Inc., at the unit prices listed. And a unit price contract for asphalt installation and repair. Renewal to Huntsberry Brothers, Inc., at the unit prices listed.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Questions or discussion? Mr. Stalter?
I just have 2 questions. One, and I can think of reasons why we would purchase this, but I noticed we're purchasing a crew cab pickup truck, and I can think of reasons why we would do that, but perhaps the people listening would like to know why we're just not going for a 2-seater instead of a crew cab. That's one.
So, Jeff Pruitt, Chief Operating Officer, I'll try to jump in and support Mr. Bakewell here. Staff has considered, various configurations. As we've talked about both in the Finance Committee and I think as we talked about in the previous meeting when we brought forward a purchase of a couple of vans, we are taking opportunities to buy vehicles that are available in the government market right now, which is severely limited. For this particular purpose, this is a truck that's going to be on the road predominantly as a salt truck, also then really as a delivery truck for building materials. We probably would have preferred a standard traditional cab, 2-seat cab, but the crew cab is what's available at this time, so we're taking advantage of that. Could always use it for an alternate vehicle down the road if a 2-seater comes available to us, but at the time we're taking advantage of what's available in the marketplace.
And we're purchasing a diesel, when diesel fuel is much more expensive than gasoline right now. Again, what's available on the market right now?
It is what's available, but we'll also gain additional power out of that engine. So again, when you're hauling a salt spreader, that's important.
Okay.
Additionally, diesel will get us better gas mileage than a gas engine will get on that truck. So it's, again, not our first choice, but it's availability of the market.
Thank you.
And the truck that it's replacing was taken off the road during the last fiscal year, and this is a salt spreading truck. So come the winter season ahead of us, our fleet will be limited without this vehicle.
I have a question concerning the same item that we're discussing on the vehicle. We have trades that work on automobiles, am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
Do we ever offer those vehicles to the trades to work on, to put them back into shape, that we can at least get some more use out of them? I mean, a 36,000 mile engine's not going to be, I mean, I see the rust and stuff like that, but if we can work on that, couldn't we reuse those again?
I could have a discussion with Mr. Violet at Tech High to see if that's something he would want to work on in his program.
I just, I hate to throw a vehicle with 36,000 miles on it motor-wise. I mean, if it's just rusting out, that can be fixed. And if it's just going to go back into our fleet for, our maintenance staff or something, it would be maybe a possibility. So, I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know if it is, but just thoughts.
It's a possibility. That's a conversation we can have with Mr. Violet. I mean, I think in this particular case, because this is a salt truck, it's significant corrosion to the frame of the truck.
Yeah, I get it.
My question, too, about the same thing is, 36,000 miles in a little less than 20 years, a little more than 3,000 miles a year. Again, I don't think we need to worry much about the gas mileage, because, what do you fill it up? Maybe twice a year, My concern is, to spend an extra $10,000 on a diesel engine that's only going to be used for 40,000 miles. That just doesn't quite make sense to me. I understand you get a little extra power, but do you need that much more power to go and do that? Is it reasonable to wait until, I guess, are you saying that there is no
There's not a replacement currently in the fleet.
But is there no unleaded gasoline?
Not available
Trucks
in the
available?
commercial market.
Not that we've been able to find.
No? Okay.
I mean, predominantly manufacturers are not allowing dealers to sell in the government market right now. So the what's available is very, very limited to the government market.
Yeah, they're not letting us place orders. So that Dodge came out and said, and I get this from more than one dealer, said, you know, we can't take government orders right now. If they have, and I think this is what this might have been, if they've ordered something that they got for stock, normally dealerships will place, you know, hundreds of trucks, vans, et cetera, especially for the white fleet market. And then they've placed those orders of hundreds, and they'll find out, oh, we're going to get 3 trucks, you know, and here's the configuration, and we're going to get 3 vans, and here's the configuration. But they don't know necessarily what they're going to get until it's, you know, kind of sent to them, and then they've reached out to us and other folks and said, you know, here's what we got. Is anybody interested in it? So we've turned down, I mean, we have turned down, we're not just buying anything. It does have to kind of fit into the needs of the departments, but we have turned down some things that just didn't fit our needs, so.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Questions?
I just had sort of a question and a comment. It was sort of fun to read that chocolate milk is still the most preferred by far. So nothing has changed since I was a kid. Based on the fact we're purchasing it, and you mentioned Frederick and New Holland, Pennsylvania, are we pretty confident that we're benefiting local dairy farmers in our milk purchasing?
Absolutely. So Gay Liquors Dairy, that's going to be awarded this bid, their primary plant is out of Johnstown. They also do bottling still out of Cumberland. So they are working with local dairies. And the milk marketing order that's referenced, the Frederick, New Holland, Pennsylvania, it seems a bit of an odd mix of locations, but that is the regional milk marketing order to follow if we want to have up and down pricing, the appropriate level up and down pricing on a month-to-month basis that reflects what's going on in the local market.
Okay, so
That's
it's
the
sort of like
region.
designating a sort of.
It is.
sort of
It's a
DMA.
specific region. That's the
Yep.
region
Okay.
we're in.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? And we'll move to the vote.
President Williams, if I may, I appreciate the comments regarding our automotive students at Tech High School. And it is my understanding that last year in particular with the van, our auto body students did work to do their best to mitigate that issue. So I think certainly taking advantage of our strong program and our students there has helped us at least get an additional year out of that van.
And I think additionally, we're looking at, especially our vehicles that are going to be on the road in the winter months, we're looking at maybe spending a little bit more money to seal the bottom of those undercarriages to prevent some of that rust corrosion moving forward.
Good idea.
Thank you, Dr. Sabine. Thank you, Mr. Prue. So we'll move to the vote. The vote is on Mr. Bickford's motion and Mrs. Murray's second to approve this afternoon's consent agenda. All those in favor? We have 7 affirmatives, so we do have an approved consent agenda. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Right, moving to our next agenda item. We have consideration of fiscal year 2024 comprehensive maintenance plan.
Evening again, Mrs. Williams, members of the board, Dr. Savine. I'm here with Mr. Mike Stauffer, who is Director of our Maintenance and Operations Department. This is the time annually when we come forward to you with our comprehensive maintenance plan. This is a document that is, as we always talk about, is sort of in the trilogy series that includes our EFMP, the Educational Facilities Master Plan that Mr. Rollins' team puts together in the spring of the year, the Capital Improvement Plan, which you just approved here in September, and now we bring forward the Comprehensive Maintenance Plan. So it's sort of what's the condition of our facilities, what are we going to improve, and how are we going to maintain, sort of in the 3-part series. Again, just like the other reports, this is a document that is updated annually. We can make changes to it, of course, on a regular basis, and this report was reviewed in fairly sizable detail with the Facilities Committee at its meeting just last week. So with that, I think I'll turn it over to Mr. Stauffer.
Good afternoon, President Williams, Dr. Sovine, members of the board. Oh, we're on my clicker. So, Chapter 1, we have Introduction to Supporting Information, which covers some of the basics. People like to see our guiding principles, our vision, our mission for our school and our department. So that's included there. I'll leave it there for your reading. It shows some of the interrelations between Educational Facilities Master Plan, which Mr. Rollins presented before, and how we work together and support each other on getting the correct projects done, getting them done efficiently and the most cost-effective. It also focuses on strategic and tactical focus. So our tactical focus to make sure that no maintenance issue causes a school to close. So to do that, we have to start looking more in the future with some of our preventive maintenance and our predictive maintenance, so we can keep that from happening. And the computerized maintenance system, we're transitioning to a upgraded system that will help us identify some of those issues. So it has a lot of extra capacity, so we can do some analysis and see what is causing our issues. And the facilities assessments, we do a facilities assessment in-house with our own people, and then we go through assessments with the IAC. So maintenance assessments and building assessments, and to see how we're doing overall. So that's Chapter 1. Chapter 2 is the facilities outcomes, which is just kind of tells you how we're getting our work done during the days. So there's lots of metrics here. I just wanted to point out to compare the preventive maintenance work orders that are closed in 30 days. That's a metric we like to keep to see how efficiently we're getting done. The preventive maintenance work orders were done in 58% were done in less than 30 days. But at the corrective maintenance, which is the stuff that just breaks off hand, we're getting done in 74 days. So with the available staff I have, we're focusing on that immediate need and doing the preventive maintenance as we have time. We're also trying to get some contractors to help with that preventive maintenance so we can keep ahead of it some more.
And I think just a clarification on the words that maybe match the slide, 74% done in 30 days or less, not done in 74 days. I think just a clarification there, sorry.
So the PM work orders opened. We've had 4,700 so far this year, and the number of corrective maintenance was 1,468. So we want more PMs because we want to make sure that we have things arranged correctly so they don't fail. But we have not been doing well with getting the PMs done, so we're focusing on the corrective maintenance. And in the meantime, to repair, we look at that to see how long from the time a work order is open till the time we have it closed. This past year was 18.78 days. The year before was 15.49 days. So we're not doing as well because we have less staff this year. But we're keeping a focus on that and moving forward as we can. In Chapter 3, some of the things we address is the resource and inputs. So we compare staffing levels and budget to industry standards. So the IAC it puts forth the APPA administration levels that we should be attaining to make sure our facilities stay up to date and current. So maintenance APPA level 2 is comprehensive stewardship, which is saying it's one person per every 67,000 square feet of a building. Custodial is one person for every 16,700 square feet of building. And grounds crew, one person for every 10 acres of ground. So what that means is we should have 52.8 people in the maintenance department. We actually have 38 right now. We're budgeted for 43. The custodial staffing should be 192. We have 179 currently, but that's getting better. We're hiring more people here recently, so that's good. And we actually have budgeted 192, so we're right on the number with the national standard. The place we have the biggest gap is our grounds crew. I didn't put the level 2 here as the IAC suggests, because that would be 56 people. So level 5 is we still have a good-looking property, don't have an overgrowth anywhere, but it would take 13 people to do that. So at the moment, we don't have any. So given that, we also look at the budgetary inputs. So industry standards based on replacement value of WCPS facilities. Right now, the replacement value is about $1.46 billion. So based on that, 3% of that total should be dedicated to maintenance. So that turns out to $43,824,000. We are budgeted at $24 million for this coming year. So that's a little short. Operations should be budgeted at $14,608,000. We're budgeted at $17,420. So we, once again, doing well with the operations side. And then to combine, we should have $58 million, and we have $41. So we're just a little short on the maintenance budget to help us stay on board and keep up to date. Our aging infrastructure is making it hard to keep things running. Like I said, I'm down 5 members in my staff right now, which is about 20% of the crew. So we've been using more contracted people to get our work done. It costs a little more, but it's something we have to do. Okay, in section 4, it's the planned actions. So we're going to continue to move our planned maintenance method to a predictive maintenance mode. So right now we're doing corrective maintenance, firefighting. We want to get to something we could do more to keep up the equipment better. So our preventive maintenance is like changing belts, greasing parts, changing filters, things like that. And then predictive is using the data that you have collected to make sure that the repairs don't need to be done because you catch them before they fail. Coming from private industry, we used a lot of different methods to find out when we thought a bearing would go bad on an engine. We'd fix it before that happened, and it never shut down. And that's how everybody keeps making money in industry. So we're also going to implement an inventory control with barcode or QR codes for the equipment and for our maintenance parts and pieces. So that way we know what we have, we know where to go get it, and we know how well it's functioning. And then we're going to continue increasing the professional development for our staff. We need to get more professionals in place and need to provide them more training so they provide a much better end product. They do great now, but we need to move to that next step. And Chapter 5, obstacles and missing resources. Being a lean operation with a limited budget constrains what can be done to improve the facilities. So like I said, we're just trying to maintain right now. Not really improving, we're maintaining. As the inventory ages, sustaining the properties at adequate level is going to continue to be a struggle because it is that. Our buildings are getting much, much older. So I think we said in 10 years, most of our schools will be over 50 years old. So that's something to think about. We really need to start looking at making these bigger improvements and getting the schools in place. So in the appendix, we had the school profiles. So it has every school listed, where it's at, what it looks like, what systems are involved. I have EFMP Chapter 3. So that's where we analyze our facilities to see what we need to improve and where we need to spend our money. Job descriptions for all of our positions at the school or in the maintenance department, and everybody's favorite, vandalism data. So this past year was better than the year before. We had a total of $10,297 worth of vandalism. Most of them happened at Antietam Academy. Property damage was the number one, and most of it is done by unknown assailants. So we had some of those TikTok challenges this year where a lot of our bathrooms got destroyed. We had to redo. So that's why I think our South High, North High kind of crept up the list a little bit because of some of those challenges. But otherwise, doing well. So any questions?
Yeah, I have
Yes.
one question. You spoke a little bit about, days between when the ticket is, the request for work is placed compared to when it is actually done. Do you have any idea how that compares to other school systems in the state, or?
I do not right at the moment. As these come into the IAC, they do post them online like we do, and I'll go back and look at it and see how we compare.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mr. Stout?
In Part 5, I was intrigued by, when I read this, says, much of the effort is placed on maintaining what we have. At what point does it become more cost-effective to say, we got to replace the whole school? How do we determine that in a general sense? I mean, with my cars, when they start nickel and diming to death, it's time to trade them.
This is a discussion we had probably at length in the Facilities Committee meeting, and Mr. Rollins was there, and it's some of the ongoing discussions that staff is having with Dr. Savine as well. I mean, and that we've had, really, I think, as we talked about the EFMP and we talked about the CIP and even, through the budget process. At some point, as a building ages, and we've always said, there's really no magic to saying that a school should be fully renovated or replaced at 50 years. However, at 50 years, if we're on life cycle, a roof is good roughly 25 years. So at 50 years, I've done one roof replacement at 25, and I'm getting ready to put a second replacement roof on, so I'm now on my third roof. I'm probably thinking about doors and windows. I'm on my second replacement of boiler and chiller, and as you start replacing all of those individual systems, you really need to think about, is it really time that we should be replacing that building? Unfortunately, we don't have the capital assets at this point, the resources to make those types of improvements. We talked about in the last meeting, I think it was the last meeting, when we approved the capital improvement program. The school that we're planning to use the Built to Learn funding on, that's going to be out in the front lawn, is estimated at $44 million for a 4-round elementary school. We receive, on average, per year, $8.5 million from the state through the IAC and $4 million from the county. So that's nearly 4 years of all of our capital money where we replace no other systems just to put it into one building. So we really need to be thinking that through, which is why we've gone to a maintenance method of keeping it rolling. Dr. Michael always used to say, keep our children dry, keep them warm when they're supposed to be warm, and cool when they're supposed to be cool. That's what we're maintaining because the capital funding has not been there to really systemically work through our buildings and see those replacements. I mean, our middle schools, each one of them is over 40 years old, with the youngest being 42 years old. That's a section of buildings we definitely need to get into. We're getting to a point where I would say we're pretty good in our elementary schools. We've got improvements to make, but by and large, some of our oldest elementary schools have been renovated, replaced. Middle and high schools is the place we really need to start putting investment in, and those, we're talking about even more significant capital dollars. So that is the greatest challenge is, at some point, you maintain what you have because you don't have the money to replace. And I would say that's where Washington County is right now.
Well, I mean, I'm very familiar with Williamsport High School, and it's 52 years old. When you walk through it, aesthetically, it looks beautiful. I mean, I was in there the other day for, I forget what for, and everything is, the custodial crew just does an amazing job keeping the floors clean and shiny and all that. And yet I'm sure beneath the surface, there are lingering problems with that building. It's already had window replacements. It's had asbestos removed. The science area was renovated years ago when I was there, so.
One good example in that building is that we are out to bid right now for a full HVAC replacement. And up in the penthouse, a lot of the joints are leaking. And that, of course, creates other issues. So it's fully time, and so that's a good example of a building that's 52 years old, and we're likely going to spend $11 to $12 million on that full HVAC replacement. But a new high school, I mean, I'm going to throw out a number with not a lot behind it because I've not run square footage, numbers of students and so forth, but to say we're talking $100 million is not out of question.
Well, Frederick had one that was 100.
Frederick High, I want to say, was almost 120.
I thought it was 144 million.
I think it was quite that much, but there are some in the state that are, I think there was one in Anne Arundel that, pushed 140 to 170.
It's hard to replace
But
that.
I don't, that's a tough
That's a big lift.
knuckle to swallow.
I do have some things. You want to go ahead and make the motion?
Yes, we've already had some questions asked, but if there is a motion, please,
Yes.
we can continue the
Mrs. Williams,
discussion.
I'll make the motion to approve the comprehensive maintenance plan for fiscal year 2024.
Thank you, Ms. Desford. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. And now we can have some discussion and ask further questions.
I'll go ahead and start. So our facilities committee has met concerning this most recently, and I have to say, and I've said this before, our system, and because Mr. Stauffer, good leadership, has been working through very difficult times, keeping our schools maintained to the best of our ability. I think sometimes the state IAC kind of puts roadblocks in front of us, but you've been able to, divert around that and still maintain, good communication and doing the right thing. But grades that they give us don't really reflect, for me, and I said this the other day, as long as we're keeping our kids warm and safe and dry, and our schools are looking the way they are, I don't care if they give you a D. Because I know that it's not one person giving that same grade, and we discussed that. They challenge you and raise the bar at different times, and it's not fair. But when you look at our school system in Washington County, by all means, we probably have fantastic schools. To Mr. Stauffer's point, 52-year school, and you go there and it looks fantastic. Again, there are systemic issues that have to be fixed, but all in all, when you're looking at a $17 million deficit, and we're still doing that, and then staffing is not even close to what they're asking, what you guys are doing is fantastic, and you can ask for any better. Other than just, funding it, but, for what you have to do and with what you have to do it with and the staff, you guys are just doing a great job, so, and that's, it starts with leadership, and Jeff, we know that, so, you have to really take a lot of that credit for doing that, and I sit there and listen to all that information that you were getting. I'll call it information because it's more than just information, and that's a kind way of saying it, that what they make you do. And I'm like, are you serious? And you say it, your counterparts are all in the same, we are not the only system that's having this conversation. They're all across state, that they're making us jump these, hoops and hurdles, when we really just want to fix our buildings. And so making more work for you isn't helping out. And I think that might be a good conversation to have with the state board, that this is the kind of things that we're up against. Let us maintain our schools. Don't make us jump through all these, ridiculous hoops and hurdles, because our schools are really in good shape because of leadership and the staff that he has. So I'm happy to say that, we have a school system that cares about, our system, our buildings, outside, and we're doing it with staff that's just, it's understaffed. It's not even close to being staffed. So you guys are just continue to do what you do, and I'm happy to support you on that. So congratulations, and I know it's a lot of hard work, and I know it's very frustrating, but you guys are doing the best you can, and it's awesome. It really is.
It's great people that really are concerned about the work and the schools and the kids.
And it shows. It shows. You look at the grounds, everybody's just doing a great job. So, and then it's crazy what they have to put you through, so I support you.
Any other questions or comments?
For the record, I'd just like the public to know that Mr. Stauffer and I are not related, so I've been asked that question several times. And if you find out we are related, you might want to send him a sympathy card for being related to me, maybe, I don't know.
I have a question with regard to planned actions. It's the second bulleted item, the implementation of inventory control with barcodes or QR codes posted on equipment to track usage and maintenance by, you mentioned parts or piece. So how is this being done currently, and what kind of cost will be involved in order to implement this new inventory control? And what are we looking at in terms of man hours? Who will have that responsibility? Will that fall to custodians, or will you have other central office staff? Will you be doing it, sir?
I will be doing some of it, yes. We use our summer help to help. We started cleaning out places, cleaning out our warehouse, which has a lot of antiquated parts that we'll never use again, that can go away. So we get down to the point where we only have parts that we will use. And we're going through our trucks, getting rid of the parts that we don't use anymore, that's just going along for the ride. So once we get it pared down to where it's the parts we know we need, we are going to use often, then we'll sit down with IT and we'll determine what barcoding system we can implement, determine the costs. Our maintenance management system is set up for this, for barcoding. So that way, if you walk up to a piece of equipment, all you have to do is scan it. It tells you exactly what it is. Bring up a work order that it may be associated with it, and you can fix it on the spot. Same with the parts. If you need a part, it'll tell you exactly where the part is in our warehouse or on somebody's truck. So it's all things we have to do. It's going to be long-term. It's not going to be short-term because there's just a lot of moving parts, and as we said, we don't have the staff to really address it fully all at once.
In terms of the larger equipment, I think Mrs. Williams, from the maintenance guy being able to scan that barcode on that larger piece of equipment to determine then what are the specifications of that piece of equipment. It might be amps, it might be volts, it may be any number of pieces of information that might need, model and serial number, that they may then need when they determine, I need this bearing for that motor that's this model, that then they can use that when they're looking for the appropriate part or needing to order the appropriate part. It all becomes at their fingertips once they're able to scan that piece of equipment. Attaching that work order and knowing that specific work that needs to happen on that piece of equipment also then is helpful to, just as, is it really time to replace this piece of equipment that then may also fall into Mr. Rollins' shop on the facility side. If it's a larger system, those systems that we do more work orders on sometimes get elevated as we do the EFMP and the CIP every year. Here's the plan of what might happen over the next 5 years, but items, larger systemic, sometimes move up and move back based on the work that goes on Mr. Stauffer's shop every day.
Okay. Any other questions? Are we ready to move to the vote then? Okay, the motion is to approve the comprehensive maintenance plan for fiscal year 2024. All those in favor? Okay, we have unanimous approval. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay. Our last item of new business is to me, and that is the self-nominations for the MABE committee assignments. You should have a list of those suggested self-nominations. And I'm looking for a motion to approve.
Madam President, I move to approve the self-nominations for MABE committee assignments as presented by President Williams and the sending of a board endorsement of those nominations to MABE.
And that MABE being, we use acronyms all the time, so for the public, MABE is the Maryland Association of Boards of Education, and these would be for the standing committees for the 2022-2023 year. Mr. Stauffer has made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Bickford, any questions, any discussion? Before we vote, I'd just like to read what we have here. Mr. Bickford has volunteered to serve on the Budget Committee. Mr. Stauffer has agreed to put his name forward to serve on the Legislative Committee. Mrs. Murray has volunteered to serve as the alternate for that committee. Mrs. Murray has agreed to put her name forward to serve on the Conference Program Committee. I've put my name forward to be the alternate for the Conference Program Committee. My name is being suggested for recommendation to serve on the Educational Equity Committee. Dr. Zentmeyer's name is going forward to be suggested for nomination to the Nominating Committee. My name for Policies and Procedures. My name for the Resolutions Committee, along with Mr. Stauffer's name. We do not have anyone for Federal Relations Network or the MABE Awards Committee. I think we've done a good job of filling most of those spots. So the motion is to approve the self-nominations for MABE Committee assignments as presented, and the sending of these off to MABE with board endorsement. All those in favor? 7 affirmatives, unanimous. Ms. Chekovic, you'll take care of sending that off. Thank you so much, and we will be meeting the deadline to get those in. They're asking for them earlier this year, and we will get them in well before the deadline. Dr. Sevine, we'll have the second half of your superintendent's report now, if you're ready.
Thank you, President Williams, and members of the board. Recognize that strong school leaders build strong school communities. October is the National Principals Month, and we would like to recognize our administrators who are committed to the success of our students and staff. Dr. Webster will share more about the positive impact these leaders have on our school community.
Thank you. Good evening, President Williams, members of the board, and Dr. Sevine. Talking about principals is something that is near and dear to my heart, so I'm honored to be here this evening to recognize the amazing principals in Washington County Public Schools. As Dr. Sevine said, October is National Principals Month, and our principals here stand out as deeply committed and engaged leaders who keep the interests of their students at the forefront of their work. Our principals demonstrate strong leadership both in times of great success, times of stress, and times of sorrow. It takes a unique skill set to serve in the role of principal, and we are so grateful to our principals who have to be agile in the day-to-day running of their school, as well as provide the ability to have a long-range focus and intentionality to lead their communities and continuously adapt to the needs of our students and ensure that all students thrive, and other duties as assigned, right, as we say, for our principals. So we would like to thank our principals for their everyday leadership, commitment, and engagement of their communities.
Thank you, Dr. Webster. And just continuing with our recognitions, WCPS recognizes the importance of providing a learning environment where all students feel safe and welcome. October is National Bullying Prevention Month. Everyone plays a role in taking a stand against bullying. Helen Huffer, our supervisor of school counseling, has more information about how WCPS is promoting positive character and stopping bullying before it starts. Helen?
Good evening, President Williams, members of the board, and Dr. Sevine. October is Bullying Prevention Month. We teach and assist students throughout the school year in understanding what bullying is and is not. We provide positive school climate and culture initiatives through PBIS, restorative practices, character counts, and other school-wide programs to teach positive behaviors and recognize students for demonstrating these. School counselors teach classroom lessons on a monthly basis to address student needs and social-emotional learning. These lessons can include ways for students to interact in positive ways with one another, how to handle their own emotions, and what to do if someone is being unkind or is bullying them. All school staff are trained in bullying prevention and bullying and harassment protocol if a student is being bullied. We encourage parents to have discussions with their students about positive peer interactions and what to do when others are unkind. Please always report alleged bullying incidents to school administrators. Together, we can help students have bully-free environments to learn in every school. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hoffer, and we certainly appreciate your leadership, building capacity, and support in our schools through the school counseling program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just continuing with my report, it's so important that students have access to healthy, nutritious meals to be at their best from a learning standpoint. Next week is National School Lunch Week, and we would like to celebrate our food and nutrition services staff. They have a true passion for the work that they do, and Mr. Mike Embley is going to show us how they make a difference even beyond the cafeteria. Mr. Embley.
Good evening, President Williams, Dr. Savine, and members of the board. President John F. Kennedy created National School Lunch Week in 1962. During this annual week-long celebration, School Nutrition Association members and students across the country celebrate in their cafeterias with decorations, special menus, events, and more. This year, in addition to the Maryland Farm to School Week, we will celebrate National School Lunch Week October 10th through the 14th, and will feature local fresh fruit and vegetables and a serving line decorating contest. The winner will be announced live Friday, October 14th during lunch. Each day I'm amazed at the work I see and hear about in our school cafeterias. We have a very dedicated, hardworking, and caring team who put a lot of love in every meal they serve to our students and staff. Tonight, I'm honored to have Cindy Mock, Regional Kitchen Manager at E. Russell Hicks Middle School, to represent the department. Cindy started as a substitute food service employee in 1992 and worked her way up. Cindy has had many accomplishments during her tenure, including her role in the meal machine program from day one. At this time, I'd like to share a video that No Kid Hungry created several years ago to highlight the meal machine program, and Cindy is featured in that video.
The kids that swarm the truck when we come, at one of our sites, when we pull in the lot, they're running to the truck and they're lining up before we even get out of the truck. So, I mean, you know that they're looking for the truck so that they can eat that day.
There's a lot of poverty, and you know, during the school year, they are coming to school, they are getting fed. When school's out, we're not there for them, and that's where the mobile program came into place. You know, we were operating school open sites, but the problem was kids a lot of times didn't have the means to get to the school site. So we knew that we needed to take the food to them. Cindy and Dawn are an amazing part. They were you know, here from day one with our big meal machine. When the posting comes out each summer, they always ask, we want to do that program again.
Sometimes you can really tell when they first sit down and start to eat, they're like really devouring it. They're really hungry, you know, they're not worried about anybody else or what anybody's doing.
And we have young kids that come. A lot of the kids, they really need us to come so that they can have that meal for the day. I've done this for like the last 6 years, and I've gotten to know these kids, and they touch my heart. Like, you know, you get to know them and you love them like, you know, they're yours.
So No Kid Hungry really helped us to expand this program, providing cold holding equipment, tables for the kids to sit down, shade by being able to put awnings out. It's a very proud moment. Every community has areas of need. And I think that, you know, the approach we've taken is they are our kids. And yes, they're not in our school buildings, but they're our kids. So we're gonna go out and feed them. We feed them during the school year, so why not go out and feed them during the summer?
It's really easy to see from the video that Cindy has a passion for feeding our children, and she really cares. Thank you, Cindy, for your years of service and dedication. And in addition, thank you to the 225 others food and nutrition staff members who make a difference each day. Thank you.
I just want to join Mr. Embley in saying thank you. Your passion, your love, and your care for our students. It's quite evident. So thank you, Mr. Embley. Appreciate your leadership for food nutrition staff, and certainly we look forward to celebrating next week with all of our nutrition specialists. But thank you, Ms. Mock.
Thank you.
This Thursday, October the 6th, is National Coaches Day. It's clear that coaches, like teachers, have a significant impact in making our students become well-rounded individuals. From my experience, I know how much a coach can do to shape a young person's life. They can help to teach a student the value of teamwork, discipline, resiliency, confidence, and healthy attitude toward competition. Coaches can help students learn how to win gracefully, but also how to grow from defeat. They instill values and skills in students that can last a lifetime. I would like to extend my appreciation and a big thank you to all of our coaches for your hard work, your inspiration, wisdom, and dedication. We appreciate you. Now, let's hear from a few of our coaches that serve our students at WCPS.
The impact that coaches have in Washington County is tremendous. Coaches are putting in their heart and soul to help these students and athletes be the best that they can.
They take a lot of time out of their own lives and put a lot of dedication into the sport that they love. And they're just trying to get their players to hopefully grow as a player, and not only a player, but an individual.
I look at the students and it's more of like, I want to try to do everything to help them succeed. The coach wants to impart the skills or the knowledge so that when the athlete competes, the athlete will do well.
I love being a coach and a teacher in the same building because I see my students as students, I see my students as athletes, I see other athletes as students.
Kids get to see me in two different roles. I'm not just a coach, I'm not just a teacher. And they realize that people can be multifaceted. I can be athletic and I can be a nerd at the same time. So many think that they are separate and you can't have the crossover, but you can.
One of the big things that I feel is important for me working here at the school is the relationship that I have with my students. My students will ask me about my matches or my meets when I have the unified meets and matches, and I ask them the same thing about theirs. They know that I care about them. I like to know if they want.
What I like most about coaching is being able to see those girls from obviously 6th grade all the way into 12th grade and just growing as women and maturing and becoming successful young adults. I'm still in touch with a lot of those girls. Now they're out in the real world, they have a boss, they have a job, and they're working as a team. Them playing any sport, doesn't matter if it's volleyball or whatever, whoever the coach is, they've been part of something, and I really feel that that helps them in the future with whatever they're doing.
We love what we do. We wouldn't be doing it if we didn't. It's not like an NFL coach where I'm going to get paid millions of dollars and it doesn't matter if I'm happy or not. I've got a big bankroll coming in. The high school coaches, we do it because we love to do it. We love the kids, we love the sport, and we love giving back.
We want our students of Washington County Public Schools and our athletes to be great citizens in our community, and that's what coaches strive to do. Help those kids be the best that they can in whatever aspect of life that they are going to do.
Wins and losses are fun, championships are fun, but being with the kids is the best part by far.
I just want to conclude this report by saying thank you to our many coaches throughout our school district. They are difference makers. Thank you for those of you that spend extra time, countless hours, dedication to inspiring the needs and meeting the needs of our student athletes. So we thank all of our coaches. That does conclude the report segment. But before I transition to a few updates, I believe I would be remiss if I did not say thank you to our very talented communications and media team. We appreciate them for capturing the voices of our talented and committed staff members. Thank you. Now, moving on with just a few updates. We are excited to continue a partnership with Frostburg State University to support our teachers. Applications are now being accepted for the Maryland Accelerates program. This allows participants to earn a Master of Arts in Teaching degree on a fast track in just 13 months and get a living stipend of $35,000 over that time period. You will complete a year-long teacher residency internship in Washington County Public Schools, which will begin in May of 2023. Applications will be accepted through March the 1st of next year. Just mentioned that we have our current program. I believe we have 14 participants, and we look forward to their successful completion and joining our teacher ranks next year. Also, I want to mention that nominations are now being accepted for the 2023 Educational Support Personnel of the Year Award. This recognition honors our ESP staff who go above and beyond to serve their school. These employees are school secretaries, cafeteria workers, paraprofessionals, custodians, bus drivers, and more. If you know an extraordinary ESP staff member who has had a positive impact on your student, school, or community, show your appreciation for their hard work by nominating them for the 2023 ESP of the Year Award. You can find more information on our WCPS website. Also, in case you missed it, WCPS will be cheering on Elizabeth McDonald, the biomedical science teacher at Boyd J. Michael III Technical High School. She's one of 7 finalists across the state who is in the running for the Maryland State Teacher of the Year Award. We will all be watching with anticipation as MSDE will announce the 2023 Maryland Teacher of the Year winner this Thursday, October the 6th, right around 8 p.m. You can join us in supporting Ms. McDonald by tuning in to Maryland Public Television, MPT2, or by visiting www.mpt.org/toy once again at 8 p.m. this Thursday. Again, we look forward to celebrating in Ms. McDonald's successes, and we just extend our appreciation for her representing our school district so well. I'd also like to mention that Maryland State Board of Education is scheduled to meet with the Washington County Board of Education on Monday, October the 24th at 1 p.m. in a work session format to discuss the blueprint of Maryland and the needs specific to Washington County Public Schools. Additionally, the State Board will conduct its monthly meeting on Tuesday, October the 25th from our WCPS board meeting room. The State Board is scheduled to highlight our WCPS apprenticeship program during its meeting on the 25th. Both meetings will be open to the public. And finally, just a quick reminder this evening, we have an early dismissal for students on the calendar for this Friday, October the 7th. Again, students will be dismissed from their school 2 hours early this Friday. Once again, just an additional shout out to Ms. McDonald. I know a number of board members and myself will be in Annapolis at a May meeting, but we look forward to joining in the watch ceremony and celebrating her many successes this coming Thursday evening. So once again, Members of the board, that concludes my report. I remain open to any questions that you may have regarding my reports and update.
Thank you, Dr. Savine. Colleagues, any questions for Dr. Savine about his report or updates? Okay. Thank you again. All right, we'll move to this afternoon's personnel action. We have Dr. Webster, our Associate Superintendent for Administration and Leadership.
Good evening again, President Williams, members of the board, and Dr. Simon. As discussed earlier in closed session, there are several staff changes for your review. At this time, I ask for your approval of today's personnel actions.
Thank you, Dr. Webster. Is there a motion?
President Williams. I move to approve the personnel actions dated Tuesday, October 4th, 2022, as presented in the closed session.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. Move to the vote. We're voting to approve the personnel actions as discussed earlier this afternoon. Those actions are dated today, October 4th, 2022. Are those in favor? All right, we have 6 affirmative, and we have approved personnel actions. Thank you. Okay, reports to the board. Our first report is a presentation of the audited financial statements and the auditor's report. We have Mr. David Brandenburg, Executive Director of Finance. Mr. Brandenburg, would you like to introduce the other gentleman with you?
Absolutely. Good evening, President Williams and members of the board, Dr. Sovine. You have before you tonight the audited financial statements for the year ended June 30th, 2022. Mr. Sampson of the audit firm Zelenkowski Axelrod is here to talk about their reports and any other highlights he wants to mention. Drafts of these statements were reviewed with the Audit Committee on September 21st, and Mr. Al Martin, the chairman of that committee, is here and will share his perspective also. I just wanted to mention that the first section following the audit report is management's discussion and analysis, and it's a good overview of the financial statements. The purpose of it is to introduce the basic financial statements, provide an analytical review of our financial activities with some comparative data, some charts and graphs. One matter of significance this year is the change in the treatment of what we previously referred to as operating leases, which are now recorded as an asset and a liability. I might mention also that our federal funding this year was 14% of total revenue, nearly double the pre-COVID amount of the usual of 7%. Revenue on COVID relief grants is recognized as expenditures are incurred. It's the reason we didn't have it all recognized last year. It's recognized as it's spent. What can be confusing about these financial statements is that there are different kinds of statements that present different views. The first 2 statements that you have on pages 17 and 18 are what we refer to as government-wide, reflect overall financial status considering both short-term and long-term information. The financial statements that follow that are more detailed regarding individual funds and do not include long-term assets and liabilities, but are otherwise prepared under generally accepted accounting principles. Then we have the budgetary basis, schedule of revenues and expenditures under required supplementary information on page 71, with which the board and school system management are most familiar. Our budgetary basis general fund surplus is $5.5 million, which is only 1.8% of our budget. Every category had a favorable budget variance, and I would like to thank my staff for all their good work throughout the year and the substantial assistance given to the audit team during their audit. I'd also like to recognize the conscientious work of the payroll and accounts payable members of our staff who provide excellent service to this organization every day of the year. At this time, I'll ask Mr. Sampson to review his audit reports, any other highlights with you, and then Mr. Martin will add his comments as well. I'll be glad to take any questions at any time.
Thank you, David. First things first, I'd like to thank David and his staff for providing the information to complete the audit in a timely fashion this year. I would like to point out again, you will notice we'll be issuing the single audit later, which is basically our audit report on the compliance with the school system's major federal programs. So first things first, I would like to go over our opinion. We performed our audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards and government auditing standards. We issued an unmodified or clean opinion on the school system's financial statements. The biggest thing, the school system did adopt a few new statements this year, but the biggest one, as we'll talk about shortly, is GASB 87 leases, which David had mentioned. So I'm going to go over some brief financial highlights. If you have any questions, just jump in and let me know. But I'm going to start on page 17 of the financial statements. As David had mentioned, this is your government-wide statement of net position. This is where really the school system ended up as of June 30th, 2020. The two items I want to point out on the page, of course, is your total net position. You see you have governmental activities, had a positive net position of $55.3 million. As far as unrestricted, you'll see they had a negative $185.6 million. And you'll see the food service fund, which is, of course, our business type activities, which is your food service fund, had a negative net position of $528,000. The negative net position, as I mentioned in prior years, are primarily due to the post-employment and the net pension liabilities. And the one item I did want to point out on the page, so that the school system did adopt GASB 87 this year. So you will see under your long-term liabilities, this year you will see a lease liability. Under governmental activities, that's $1.9 million, the long-term piece. And the amount due within 1 year would be $442,000. So there's a whole new note in the financial statements, which we'll go over later, which describes the various leases the school system has and the principal and interest due in future years. That's all I wanted to point out on this statement, unless there's any questions. The next statement is page 18. This will be your statement of activities. So this is the changes, your revenues and expenditures for the year ended June 30th, 2022. If you go to the bottom of the page under changes in net position, you'll see the governmental activities had a 21.2 increase in net position. This was primarily due to a decrease in the school system's OPEB expense, a positive surplus in the internal service fund, which basically pays your medical expenses for the school system, and also just generally revenues over expenditures of roughly $5 million in the general fund is the reason for the increase in net position. You'll see under business type activities, for the food service fund, basically had a positive increase in net position of $5 million. That was primarily due to your revenues exceeding your expenditures with the free lunches during the year ended June 30th, 2022. That's all I was going to point out on that page. So next, we're going to go to page 19, which is your fund level statements. These statements are, as David mentioned, don't include your long-term liabilities, your capital assets. It's basically a short-term focus. And we have you'll see at the end of the page, for the general fund at the bottom of the page had a total fund balance of $34.6 million. And the unassigned piece of that, which is what you can use for any expenditure of the school system, was $10.5 million. The capital projects funds, you'll see, had a negative unassigned fund balance. That's primarily due to retainage payables not billed yet. On page 21, that's a statement of revenues and expenditures and changes in fund balance. This is what happened during the year for the general fund. As David had mentioned, it has a $5.6 million increase for the year, and your capital projects fund had a negative $174,000 decrease in your fund balance for the year ended June 30th, 2022. The next statement would be on page 23. This is your statement of net position, which really has your food service fund, which we kind of already discussed, but it also includes your internal service fund, which is your self-insurance fund for your medical expenses. At the bottom of the page for the internal service fund, you'll see they had an unrestricted net position of $23.6 million for the year ended June 30th, 2022. And if you go to the next page, on page 24, you can see for the internal service fund, as I mentioned previously, they had a change in net position of $3.2 million. So basically, the charges exceeded the expenditures for the medical claims. And lastly, as far as the statements on page 26, this is basically your fiduciary funds. I did want to point out the retiree health plan trust. That's the investments the school system has with MABE. For the year ended, you had $98.4 million invested in the trust. So there was a negative change in the investments in the trust this year, and that was from the market conditions as of June 30th, 2022. I did want to stress the importance. So this year, as I mentioned, your OPEB expense did decrease this year. So the actuary made an assumption that you will continue to contribute $6 million a year to the pension trust fund. So I just did want to point that out to the board. It's important to do that. Otherwise, the discount rate the actuary will use would actually have to be decreased and would increase your liability to the system in future years. So the other item I wanted to point out in the notes would be, as I mentioned, the note 16, which is the leases for this year. And that is on page 68. So that's the one change from the financial statements from the prior year. So it adds detail and lists out the various leases in different categories that the school system has. Primarily, most of the balance is related to the leases for the buses that the school system uses to transport its students. And you'll see below there's a schedule there that shows the future principal and interest payments for these leases, and going out 5 years, then 5-year increments after that. So other than that, some other required communications to the board. We had no significant difficulties in performing the audit. We had no disagreements with management over any accounting or auditing principles. To our knowledge, there was no consultation with other accountants. We obtained the required representations prior to issuing the audit. We did issue another opinion. There weren't any findings of material noncompliance with laws and regulations to report, and no findings over internal control or financial reporting to report to the board at this time. That's all I had to communicate at this time. Unless there's any questions specifically for me, I can turn it over to Al to provide his perspective.
Questions for the auditor? Thank you, Mike. I'm Al Martin. I think most of you know me. I've been privileged to volunteer as the Audit Committee Chair, and just like to thank our Audit Committee, the 4 members there, and Daryl Evans, who also sits on the Audit Committee as Chair of the Board Finance Committee. We have a great group of CPAs, Ray Gray, who's retired CFO from the hospital and from the one of the health system groups that managed a tri-party group, Trivergent, and then also Kathy Vaughn and Rachel Davies. So good group of people, all volunteers. We met with the auditors before the audit started to go over the plans for the audit with staff and the audit firm. We then met afterwards, about a week or two ago, on September 21st, to review the draft audit reports and to discuss any issues with the audit. And just pleased to report that, as Mike just said, no issues, no management letter comments. So overall, it was a clean opinion. And the board is looking to be, it was a good audit, I thought, and the board is in, I think, good financial shape. In layperson's terms, there's a lot of reports here. The ones that you all are most interested in that compare, your actual results to budget would be in the back as supplemental information. The reports up front. The one thing I kind of like that really looks at things from a fund perspective, which is how you budget and how most people actually look at these things, is when you get back to not page 17 or 18, but when you get to 19 and start looking at your general fund and then look at your individual funds, that gives you a better idea of actually how you're doing. So I think the board ended the year in strong position. As Mike said, the one thing that was positive news was to see an improvement in your liabilities for retiree health insurance going down because of an actuarial change. But as he cautioned, it's important, one of the assumptions is that you'll continue to be funding that at its current level. And I think that's important because what that does is it changes the discount rate and some of the assumptions they use in calculating some of these liabilities. So overall, the board's in strong position. You had a very positive year with, I think, good surpluses. Some of that's due to one-time revenues, and that's something you'll need to talk with your staff, with David and with Jeff and the superintendent, obviously, about the implications of that. So while it was a good year, there's future challenges ahead as some of this federal funding that's one-time supporting revenues isn't there, perhaps in the future. And, of course, looking at what future state and county fundings hold for the school board and the system. But overall, a pleasure working with everyone, and just like to thank the staff. Again, an excellent job on dealing with very complex finances and a large budget. Probably after the hospital, this budget, I don't know, this may even be larger than the hospital, but both the health system and the school system are some of our biggest financial entities in our county. So tough thing to manage, and thank you all for your attention and support and, continuing to have, I think, a great school system for our children here in Washington County. Be happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
I have one for David. I notice here on page 68 under the leases, it talks about leasing from an N&R Realty. And it's just a small amount, a monthly payment of $833. What is that?
That is storage space that we have on Frederick Street, and most of that is for the VISPA school performance props and supplies. I think we use it for other things as well, but it's a storage facility on Frederick Street. And I wanted to point out also on that, the buses, those are the contractor buses. We don't lease any buses that we own or that we drive with our employees, but the change in accounting principles made us capitalize what we call the per vehicle allotment portion of what we're paying our bus contractors. We're essentially leasing the bus from them and then paying them, something, for their time and everything, but this is the portion related to the bus cost.
Okay.
And that's because you have guarantees to these contracts that enable them to buy the buses and be able to finance them themselves.
Any other questions or comments? So again, what I heard was that it's important that we continue to fund at the current level, which I believe was $6 million for OPEB.
We put in this past year, yes.
So what and we have this discussion when we get to the budget, what we're going to do about OPEB. To increase that contribution, what would be the benefits?
The benefit would be that you would fund it, fully fund it more quickly. It's slated to be fully funded in the mid to late 2030s right now, if we keep going the way we are going. And as mentioned, the position this year, that $98 million is a decrease. We had an unfavorable market for the investments this year, but I think the prior year it was up 25%, and this year it was down about 13%. So we're still looking good overall. But the only benefit would be that we would fund it more quickly and could start drawing it out than if we wanted to reduce our rates for the health insurance program. We could take it from that and pay it from that. Right now, we're paying it with the current rates, we're paying the current claims with the current rates. But this is to provide for promises that have been made for people's, into the future throughout their life expectancies.
So we've been maintaining this $6 million for
We've
how
been
many?
contributing $5.5 to $6.5 million a year over many years now. It started in 2008, and we did increase the general fund portion in fiscal 20, I believe, by $1.5 million. It was $3.5. We brought it up to $5 million in 20, I believe, or 21. And there's nothing that states exactly how much. I mean, there's no specific requirement to fund it. It's just considered a good practice to do that. So there's nothing that states, not like the pension contribution where that's mandated by the state. We don't have that kind of requirement, but it's generally considered a good practice to fund it. And you can see that, our funding percentage is generally increasing year to year, and that's influenced by the market as returns also.
So it's kind of a good faith effort to keep
Yes.
doing that.
Yes, it gives comfort perhaps, to those looking at our liabilities and our statements are combined with the county's financial statements, so it looks good in that regard also.
Thank you.
Just to continue on to yours, Dave, what was the fully funded amount that you're saying, like by 2030, that we should be fully funded? Is there a dollar amount that they're looking for to be fully funded, or how's that work?
No, I'm just saying that the assets that are in the plan would match the liability that's measured at that time.
What the actuaries do is periodically you have an actuary study update of your employees that are in the census, looking at potential future retirees as well, and they look at what the present value is of those future expenses or liabilities. And then basically they look at the assets you have on hand to fund that, and then they basically discount to try to come up with what that current liability would be on a present value basis.
I got it. Yep.
So it's based on estimates.
Right, yeah.
Yes. Much of the statement
And
is based on
assumptions
assets.
on how long people are going to live, future medical inflation expenses, things of that nature as well.
Participation rates.
As is the pension liability, also based
Yes.
on estimates that the state performs, their actuary performs, and our capital assets, and depreciation involve estimates as well. So a lot of the big numbers on this statement involve estimates.
The pension liabilities, though, are calculated by an independent agency, Maryland State Retirement, since they are basically the entity that provides that. These post-employment retiree health benefits, though, are basically done by your own actuaries in conjunction with others, your Maryland Association, or MABE, I think you call it.
Maryland Association of Boards of Education.
Yes.
That's just the assets. The actuarial services that measure this liability are done by our benefits consultant, Gallagher.
So my takeaways are no issues, clean opinion, strong position, excellent job, David. Thank you for your fine work, and thank you to your department and their fine work.
Madam Chair, that summed it up well in layperson's terms.
Mr. Martin, thank you so much for your many years of service
Quite welcome.
in your role.
My pleasure.
We appreciate your expertise, so thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
that brings us to board member committee reports. Dr. Zentmeyer, would you like to begin with Curriculum Instruction Committee?
Next, our next meeting is October 11th, 10:30 here, and we'll consider primary resources for the Science of Reading program, as well as 3 new CTAT programs in aviation. We have, if you count all of the programs that we have in CTE across the 9 campuses, we have 95 offerings already. I heard a commercial that said, want to know about this? We have an app for that. Are you interested in art, media, construction, teaching, avionics? We have an app for that. Actually, we have a completer for that. So it's just exciting working on this committee and what's happening as far as offering our students completers.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. Facilities, Mr. Gessard?
Mrs. Williams, we've heard the report from the facilities today, so we'll just wait for our next meeting, which isn't scheduled to probably after the first year,
Thank you, Mr. Gessard.
unless something comes up.
Finance Committee, Mr. Evans?
Well, nothing as exciting as flying stuff, but
No.
Our next meeting will be Wednesday, October 19th at 9 a.m. over in the board conference room.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Human Resources Committee, Mrs. Murray?
I have nothing to report.
Mrs. Murray? Mr. Bickford, Policy Review and Development Committee.
We meet next Tuesday, October 11th, that's Tuesday or Wednesday. October 11th at 2 p.m. In the board conference room.
Thank you. Ms. Cruz, Student Government?
I do not have anything to report tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That concludes committee reports. For miscellaneous business, we have one item, and that is our list of future agenda items. Coming up for our second October meeting, we have 2 work sessions. One work session is for, oh no, we canceled that. We decided to cancel that. Oh, scratch that off your list. We have one work session on that day, and that is a work session to discuss our legislative priorities for 2023. So that is October 18th. And at our business meeting that evening, we will be approving or not approving our board norms and communication processes. We will have some appointments to the Board of Education Advisory Committee. Something relevant to what Dr. Zentmeyer was talking about, we have a Meredith Spotlight for CTE, which promises to be exciting, and I know Dr. Servine is looking forward to that, and I as well. And summer projects for 2022 will also be a part of that second October meeting. Earlier this afternoon, we talked a little bit in closed session about the work session that our board will be having with the Maryland State Board of Education. And we are pleased to have Allegheny and Garrett County coming down on that day, and they will have work sessions with the State Board of Education as well. And then on October 25th, the Maryland State Board of Education will be having their meeting, their regular meeting. On November 1st, we will be having an action item where we will be considering the adoption of our legislative program and the approval of our legislative response team members. That is on November 1st. We'll also have a report about teacher recruitment, hiring, and the Teacher Induction Academy. And then on November 15th, we are scheduled for a very nice occurrence, which is the ribbon cutting at the Boyd J. Michael III Technical High School. So those are the things listed for upcoming agenda items. Colleagues, if you have anything that you would like to see on an upcoming agenda, please let a member of the committee know, and we'll take care of getting that scheduled. That takes care of miscellaneous business. We'll move now to board member comments. Ms. Cruz, would you like to begin?
I have none for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Murray?
Last week, I had the privilege of reading to Aaron Fox's class at Pangbourne Elementary, and I read one of my favorite books, Thunder Cake by Patricia Polacco, and the students seemed to love it just as much as I do. It was a great experience. And today, I visited Mogginsville Elementary, and I'd like to thank lead teacher Christy Sears for taking the time to give me a tour of the building and introducing me to so many wonderful staff members.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Mr. Bickford?
I just wanted to give a shout out and thank you to Mr. Neil Becker. Last time I saw you, you were wearing a crab on your head, but he participated in the Taste of the Town event Sunday night, which is a fundraiser for REACH, which is our local cold weather shelter. So I wanted to appreciated seeing you there, and thanks for your involvement.
Mr. Stoutland?
I just want to say that we have excellent staff in sight of the fact that it's National Principals Month or whatever, and the food service workers were recognized, and the coaches, that everybody, all staff members in Washington County public schools play a role in educating our children and so forth.
Mr. Gessford?
The only thing I'd like to share is when I graduated from Williamsport High School in 1984, Mr. Stauffer was a coach, and he was a soccer coach. And during our campaigning times, people would always come up and say, "Thank you, coach. Hey, coach." And I think that goes for all of our coaches. They never lose that title. And it's something to be proud of, because you have touched so many students. And then no matter how old that student gets, you're always going to be the coach. So congratulations on how many years, 40-some years of being in there, but been on the field.
I did coach JV and varsity soccer for a total of 27 years.
So, that's a title that is well appreciated for what you've done for our community.
Appreciate that,
And
Mike.
we don't get to have too many coaches. I know Wayne was a coach, and so it's always nice to have those folks, on our staff here and fellow board members. So, thank you, Stan.
I just want to add something to that. In '79, I had the privilege of coaching a state championship team, and this year those boys are turning 60 years old. And it's funny because when we do get together, they have different memories of things that happened during that season. And the old coach, who's much older, has to straighten those young whippersnappers out still to this day and so forth, because I swear they're starting to suffer from dementia, because some of the stories I hear never took place. I don't know where they come up from. Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Gessford. Mr. Evans?
What was that, 1984? I was one.
You were one. You had to rub that in, didn't you?
I did. No, there is a lot more to, as we saw in our video there, there's a lot more to athletics than just going out and winning. I played 3 sports myself in high school, and yes, winning was very important, and at the time, that was what was most important to me. As I've, gotten older, not as old, but as I've gotten older, I've came to appreciate the things that the coaches did for us and still do for us as well. There's a lot of lessons to be learned in that. So whether it's coaching baseball or football or leading a chorus concert or whatever it may be, they're coaches too. And there's a lot involved in that. So there's a lot of life lessons that, when people say that, well, especially when I hear people talk about cutting music programs or whatever, it's just absurd to me. The life lessons that can be learned from that are very important. And I don't know the first thing about music, so.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Dr. Zentmeyer?
Well, since we started our meeting early so that we'd be finished by sundown for Yom Kippur, which is a day of fasting and prayer and giving, I'm going to curtail my remarks for tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. It's very considerate of you. I have no remarks this evening, except to say, colleagues, Dr. Sovine, thank you for an afternoon of very productive meetings. I appreciate it very much. So we stand adjourned. Thank you.